For nearly 2 decades, you've turned to Illegal Curve Hockey as your destination for the latest news, audio, and analysis regarding the Winnipeg Jets, Manitoba Moose, and all things hockey in Manitoba. Join Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, and Ezra Ginsburg as a special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
Good afternoon, Winnipeg. Good afternoon, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this afternoon in the City Place food court, as well as online through all of our social media platforms, we say good afternoon, universe, and welcome to a special game day edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Along with Dave Manouk, along with Ezra Ginsburg, I am your host, Drew Mandel, here for the next 60 or so minutes, all about the Jets, all about the Dallas Stars, one of the marquee matchups this season taking place tonight in downtown Winnipeg between these two Central Division rivals. It's an exciting game. You can feel the buzz in the air. And then, you know, the playoffs are soon. They're right around the corner, about a month away. This is one of those games, you know, when there's 82 of them, sometimes they begin to blend together. There's no blending this one in. This one is an exciting one. You can feel the buzz. You can feel the vibe. You can feel the energy here at City Place as everyone is excited for tonight's contest between the Jets and the Stars. We know the impact of this game on playoff positioning. We know that this is a big game, gentlemen.
I don't think you can overstate, Drew, how big this game is. Like, are we going to say this is like Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, WrestleMania 6 in Toronto? Like, is it that big? Like, I think it might even be bigger because, like you said, this is for first in the Central, first in the Western Conference, right? If the Jets are able to get the clean 2 points, guys, I mean, that's a 10-point spread between the Jets and the Stars. We should mention the Stars would still have a game in hand.
Sure.
You know, another thing that's interesting about tonight's game is both of these teams are coming in very well rested, especially the Dallas Stars, right? With, what is it, 3 days off between games or 4 days off?
They played Sunday in Vancouver. Right? They had a weird schedule. They were on the road doing a West Coast road trip down through Seattle and then Vancouver. They played in Seattle they played in Vancouver on Sunday, then have been off until today's game. Presumably they flew home after Sunday all the way back to Dallas, then to come back to Winnipeg, and then they play Colorado as well. So it's weird that a road trip has a 4-day break in the midst of it, Dave, where they can go from the Pacific Coast back to Texas, back up to Winnipeg, and then over to Colorado. Just odd scheduling and an odd gap. But I agree, your point, Ezzy, about both teams being well rested. You know, we're so used to the compacted schedule where it's 3 and 4 nights, or it's back-to-backs, or it's 4 and 6. Well, the Jets, they've been off since Tuesday in terms of not having played a game. The Stars haven't played since Sunday. So both teams coming into this game pretty well rested. But from the Winnipeg Jets perspective, and that's the news of the day that we have to start with, Dave, you were there at the arena for morning skate. You were there at Matt Frost Media Center when Scott Arniel broke this news. The Jets banged up on the back end. Neil Pionk out of the Winnipeg Jets lineup on a week-to-week basis. Maybe just give an update to the audience here at City Place and those joining us online as to that development.
Yeah, you're right, Drew. And look, we knew something was up. Neil Pionk and Nikolai Ehlers both did not participate in practice the last 2 days. So they're, when Scott Arniel was pushed on the desk, his answer to us yesterday in the following the skate was, be at morning skate tomorrow. And of course, not a surprise that he's not giving up any sort of particular insight at this time of the year. Dallas Stars, that's the team that's got a laundry list of injuries. We'll get into that obviously a little bit later, but right, Drew, the Jets were healing up nicely and then ready to go, and we thought the D pairs were set, and then sure enough, Luke Shen, the Block brother, alongside Dylan Sandberg. I'll give Kelly Moore of 680 CGOB, he gets credit for that name. Dylan Sandberg seemed to like it, so the Block brothers are born, if you will, and Dylan Sandberg seems happy with the experience and the learning he's already gotten out of Luke Shen. But you're right, back to Neil Pionk. I wasn't certain. I know there was a hit right after he kind of collided with Matt Rempe, and then there was Othman hit him into the boards. And when Othman turned, I thought his skate kind of caught Pionk. So I was thinking maybe it was something in that game. There was some thought that maybe it had happened in the Carolina game, and that seems to be the indication from the coach, is that this is something he's been dealing with, and that it's not something that just happened in the game yesterday, or sorry, I should say on Tuesday. So obviously Neil Pionk was dealing with something, and we know he's played through a broken foot. That was one of the things Murat brought up in the morning media availability. So he's played through a lot, but the fact of the matter is this is a team that wants, again, it's a smart decision. They're resting him, they're going to get him healthy, and they're going to get him ready for the playoffs. Now, usually week to week with this team means a month, but we'll see exactly
and a month
what
would
it
take them right to the start of the playoffs. So
That's
I mean,
right.
I think that's what Scott Arniel said. It's been a lingering concern, and better to deal with it now, get them healthy for playoff time than it would be to continue to let this linger and then maybe find out that all of a sudden he's not able to go when the games really matter all the more. Now tonight's a big game. No, don't get me wrong about that, but also with perspective. A Jets clean 2 points puts the odds of them winning the division at something like 91, 92%. But even a Jets loss, a clean loss, still has the Jets far in the driver's seat at about 75% chances.
with another game against Dallas.
With another game against Dallas, that coming up in April, I think on the 10th of April, if I recall correctly. So it's a big game, and really, if you can go up, 10 points on the Stars, and even with Dallas still having 2 games in hand, you're definitely in the driver's seat at that point. But the Jets, this is some adversity with Neil Pionk now being out of the lineup, as he's been a mainstay on that back end next to Dylan Sandberg for the vast majority of this season.
Yeah, this is exactly why you go out and get a guy like Luke Schenn, right? Obviously, Luke Schenn, I think we would all agree, is better suited to be playing third pairing minutes, right? But he can also step up and play in the top 4, right? And when you talk about the Dallas Stars, obviously, they're dealing with their own set of injuries, right? Tyler Seguin hasn't played a game since that last game against the Jets in early December, right? Miro Heiskanen hasn't played since the end of January. Rupe Hintz, Dave. Yeah. Rupe Hintz is not playing tonight. So these are top players. Obviously, Dallas happens to have, Wyatt Johnston, Jamie Benn, Mikko Rantanen, Matt Duchene, Jason Robertson. I mean, the names go, Thomas Harley. Yeah. I mean, the names go on and on and on. Dallas is stacked. But Dallas is dealing with injuries. They're not at full health either. But the Pionk injury is definitely significant. But Luke Schenn, Dave, is a guy that stepping in there, you know that he is going to provide you with reliable, consistent play. And you mentioned, Block Brother. I mean, this is the Bash Brothers. That's a big boy D pair with Dylan Sandberg and Luke Schenn. So obviously, they're going to be tasked with going up against one of the Stars' top lines, and they'll be game for it. I mean, it's unbelievable, guys. Schenn's only played 1 game for the Jets, and you can already see that he's a favorite in that dressing room.
Yeah, and it's funny because he added a choice of monikers, whether it was going to be Block Brothers or Bash Brothers. He didn't feel, Dylan Sandberg at least, and he spoke, and you can listen to that, of course, on our YouTube channel after the show. But he didn't think that it was something that was going to be necessarily, interesting for him because he's not exactly that big a hitter yet. He said that's more of a Luke Schenn thing than it is a me thing.
Yeah.
And remember, Luke Schenn did have the 5 blocks in the last game. So
well, and he took Arthur Kaliev of the Rangers out of the lineup
and sent him back to New York.
And sent him back to New York. Yeah. They sent him home from the road trip, and it was a perfectly clean hit into the boards. It was sort of man against slightly lesser man on that hit.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he had a mild concussion after that hit.
Well, I mean, it was a clean hit though. It was certainly very clean. It was just you know what Luke Schenn brings to the lineup.
He was getting hit by a Mack truck.
That's just it.
I mean, Luke Schenn is the definition of big boy hockey, right? Like, he's a big man.
Yeah.
So obviously, it's not good when it's week to week, Dave. That means that, it's going to be exactly what it describes. It's going to be more than a few games. But the Jets have the depth, right? Colin Miller is going to come in, play second power play unit, play right side on the third pair. And Colin Miller, when he's played this year, obviously he's been in and out of the lineup.
Yeah.
He's been very solid for the Jets. So, I mean, this is why you have that depth on D, right?
That's right. It insulates you from these injuries. That's why you go out and you acquire these things. And we know, how important, any acquisition come trade deadline is for depth. Because you know that come playoff time, you got to go 8, 9, 10 guys deep. Well, this is basically, that's effectively, you're close enough to playoff time now that you're past the trade deadline that these are the guys you need to rely on. The Jets haven't made a call up. You wouldn't expect that they're going to, but they will, I would expect, maybe bring an extra defenseman on the road with them.
No.
You don't think so?
You got Heinola. Who are you going to bring?
I don't know. You might want to bring up somebody to play on your right side just in case we are going on the 4-game road trip here, or the 3-game road trip that starts next week.
I mean, remember, you only have three recalls now that it's passed. So I think, I mean, to me,
I think you're probably, to Dave's point, you're probably one injury away from that situation. I would imagine
you've got 8D. right?
Yeah, you do have
in theory,
18.
when
there's
Pionk,
no roster limit, so that's
no,
of course, the
but
factor.
my point is that like you don't.
And Drew
really,
does make a good point. I mean, those are both left shot guys who can play the right side. That's why I think maybe, Dave, if you have one more injury on defense, then you're in an emergency recall situation.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you could, again, like I said, you could. I just don't know that you're going to necessarily. I mean, we've seen Scott Arniel use Logan Stanley on the right side right now, so that would be my thought, is what they would do if they needed to in a pinch. But, I mean, I suspect there's going to be a long runway for this. And, again, if someone's coming out, my guess would be Hayden Fleury on the left, and they'll get, and look, Arniel alluded to that, I want to say yesterday in his media availability, did say that there's always a possibility that we'll see other guys in, although I did joke afterwards, I suspect that one player won't be Villy, but we could see Logan Stanley back in the lineup.
Let me ask you guys this. Are you surprised that it's Luke Shen moving up to play with Dylan Sandberg as opposed to a guy like Colin Miller? No? As you're shaking your head, no, so maybe...
No, I mean, I think it's valid to float that out there, Drew.
Sure.
I mean, I don't think it was like automatic, right? But I just think also Colin Miller's been a little bit in and out of the lineup. Luke Shen, I think... he's a guy.
The fact that they have him sort of they get to insulate him a little bit more on the third pairing on home ice. That's better. That's a better role for Colin Miller than Luke Shen.
Yeah, like put it this way, I think Colin Miller could play those minutes, right? Because obviously going up from the third pair up to the second pair, you're going to get those increased minutes. You're going to face a higher quality of competition. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying that Colin Miller couldn't handle that, but just based on the fact that Luke Shen plays heavy minutes, this is going to be obviously a very tight game. I don't think anybody's expecting a blowout either way.
No.
I mean, every time, what's the stat, Dave? I think Dallas has points in 11 of the last 15 games against the Jets, right? So, I mean, obviously, the Jets have been pretty successful against the Stars at home, as opposed to having a little bit more of a difficulty at American Airlines Center. But no, not surprised. But I also think that Colin Miller can fit in, and that's why I think, before the trade deadline, a lot of the focus was on, will the Jets bring in a left shot defenseman?
Sure.
And really, they have guys that can play both sides. But ideally, I think, when Neil Pionk is healthy, last game we saw the ideal D pairings, I believe. I think Hayden Fleury and Luke Shen, that's your ideal third pairing. Obviously, Sandberg and Pionk have been excellent as a pairing.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's going to be a big drop off. And one thing, guys, we shouldn't be surprised at is a lot of goals tonight, because who has the most goals since January 1st in the NHL? The Dallas Stars. Who has the most wins in the NHL since January 1st? The Dallas Stars. Obviously, the Jets are right behind them. I think they're in third and fourth in those two categories. But without Sagan, without Heiskanen, this team just keeps scoring, and that's why they're so dangerous. Not saying that the Jets can't beat the Stars tonight, because I think they absolutely can. I'm just saying this Dallas Stars team over the last couple months has been pretty much as unbeatable as they come.
And Drew, I'll just quickly jump in on the last point about, as he's talking about Shannon, was I surprised? Yeah. I wasn't, because if you look at what happened in the last game, when the Jets protecting that lead against the Rangers in the final however long, it was Sandberg and Shen. Shen actually got the bump-up shift. Now, was that because Pionk was ailing? Probably, maybe to a certain degree, but also likely because Shen is a guy who's more defensively minded and is the guy who's going to stand there and block those shots. So I wasn't terribly surprised that Shen is the guy who gets the bump up. And now to Ezzy's point, in terms of...
Sorry, Dave, I had to open up my Diet Coke.
All good. But in terms of Ezzy's point and the parity that we're seeing between these two teams, I crunched those numbers. The Jets score 3.48 goals per game. The Stars, 3.45. The Jets give up on average 2.31 goals per game. The Stars, slightly more, 2.59. Both teams are good at home on the road. Special teams are interesting, though.
Give me a 7-game series of these two teams.
Well, you might have.
You might get it in round two.
Yeah, but so look at this. Special teams are interesting. The Jets have the best power play.
Yeah.
The Stars have the 15th best power play. The Stars have the best PK. The Jets have the 15th best PK. So it's very interesting.
So it's very Spider-Man meme pointing at two Spider-Men pointing at back at one another.
It is. And again, like I said, I think the most critical thing for Jets fans, at least what I'm trying to suggest and take away from this, is remember what happened with Colorado. You can't draw conclusions from the regular season. I think it can be informative. I think it can give you a little bit of an insight as to how your team stacks up. But as he mentioned, this team has a laundry list of 3 guys on IR, and Heiskanen, Lundqvist, and Sagan. Bichelle isn't even traveling with the team, or he might.
And Rupe Hintz out of the lineup tonight.
Rupe Hintz is a questionable for Colorado, and not playing. And they've got a tough schedule, right? They play tonight in Winnipeg, Sunday in Colorado.
Well, and to the point about you can't glean too much from the regular season and extrapolate it out into playoff time. does anybody, of the three of us, does anybody really think that Sagan and Heiskanen aren't going to be in the lineup for Game 1?
No, well,
of course it's LTIR.
Well, I was going to say, Drew,
games.
our good buddy Mike Heika, who we've had on going back to the Red River radio days, reported yesterday, Sagan has been skating, Heiskanen hasn't even been skating yet. Right. So that tells you those guys are not close at all.
They're not close, but they don't need to be close until another month from now,
right.
when the playoffs
when
really
suddenly
begin.
They're very close.
Of course. All of a sudden, it's a miraculous recovery. That's the fun in games that we see all teams play each and every year right around the start of the playoffs and with the salary cap machinations and things of that
I think,
nature.
would they be fine right now? Or, I mean, again, I don't know the caps. I'm not going to pretend to know the caps. For the Stars.
Well,
cap
they
right now?
probably, because I think they're paying Rantanen almost nothing because there's so much retention going on,
right,
from all the other teams and the multiple trades that were made. So they probably are. I don't know. I haven't done a real deep dive, but I'm not really too worried about it until come playoff time, anyways.
Yeah.
But to your point, going back to January 1st, the Dallas Stars since January 1st, they played 28 games. They're 27-1 for 41 points. The Winnipeg Jets since January 1st, they've played 27 games. They're 18-6-3, so they're 2 points behind Dallas. That tells you just how even these two teams have been since January 1st. But it's the goals against for the Winnipeg Jets that are so remarkable. Yeah. 56 goals against in the last 27 games played, which tells you just how stifling they've been defensively. Not that Dallas has been poor in that category either, because they certainly haven't. They've only given up 74 goals, which is 8th in the league since January 1st. But these are two very good hockey teams. That's what makes this game so exciting tonight. That's what makes the buzz in the air so prominent, is that this is as close to playoff hockey come regular season time that we're likely going to see.
Absolutely. And you can, Drew mentioned it earlier, like you have felt a buzz in this city all week long. Like people have been looking forward to this game, not just since the last game, but for, I would say, at least a week now. And another we keep banging off all these stats. I guess we were doing our homework before, but also Dave mentioned the Stars power play is 15th in the league. It's actually number 1 in the league since January 1st at 34%. So again, we're throwing out all these numbers to tell you guys that these are the two best teams in the NHL right now. All due respect to the Washington Capitals. Yeah. This is the premier matchup in the NHL tonight. And it should be, because there's a good chance that these teams will face each other in the second round. Obviously, things would have to go horribly wrong for the Jets to play the Stars in the second round. It's just not going to happen at this point.
They in the first round yes.
At this point. Yeah. But for a second round matchup, I mean, that would be
right
up there with, it would be classic.
I don't think it's possible the Jets and the Stars could play each other in the first round.
Right.
But yeah, I mean.
If the Oilers keep slipping, the Jets could play the Oilers in the first round, maybe.
That's true.
Well, depending on the wild card spots and things of that nature. But that's, the Edmonton Oilers struggling as of late. You're right about that, Ezzy. But, that's what this game, everyone, to your point, has it had this game circled on the calendar. You got through Tuesday's game against the Rangers. The Jets get the victory there. And then now this has been always the main event for the week. This has always been the one that everyone's been leading up to.
Although you wouldn't know it, Drew. If you talk to, and again, I'm not surprised, but like the players, I mean, the coaching staff, they are not. No, I mean, I'm just saying to you that outwardly,
sure,
this is just another game. It's just game 67 on the calendar.
Well, that's what Scott Arniel tried to say, and then he, to start, I think it was yesterday's media availability where he said, "What does it mean? It means 2 points." And then he sort of got a smirk on his face. He's like, "No, we know that this is, any sort of division game. They like to put a bit of an emphasis on."
Sure.
But Scott Arniel, a little bit with a, in a sly way, admitted that everyone's aware of the prominence of this game. Again, it's not a do-or-die game. It's not a game that's going to say all of a sudden the Jets aren't going to win the Central Division. The Jets are still very much in the driver's seat for the Central Division, regardless of the results of tonight's game. But it is, it makes it that much more of an advantage to go 10 points up, as opposed to being only, what it would be, I guess it would be 6 points up. Yeah, if they were to lose.
You're right. Yeah, you're good.
With 2 games in hand.
With 2 games in hand.
And just speaking of how the players are saying publicly that this is no different than any other game, right? I don't know if you guys thought this as well, but Connor Hellebuyck just seemed like beyond calm, cool, and collected when he was talking about it. He was talking about it like, I just want to get my win, right? I just want to get my win. I just want to get my shutout, right? And like totally downplaying it. And I think, he is being truthful, but I mean, as a group, this team knows what's at stake here. They finish first in the division. They obviously get first in the West.
Yeah.
First in the Pacific is not going to get first in the West. So obviously this is huge. What this does, Drew, like you said, it's not like this is this has playoff implications in terms of making the playoffs, but it goes a long way into securing top spot and making sure you play that second wild card team, which is huge. I mean, we've talked about it all year long, but these are the types of games that are huge. So again, I don't think you can overstate how big of a game this is. That's why I wish the puck was dropping in 15 minutes as opposed to 6 hours from now.
Yeah, again, a very valid point that the excitement level, the anticipation level, everything about that, and both teams are going to know. Both teams know that this is the level and the standard that they need to get through what is going to be the absolutely brutal Western Conference playoffs. I mean, it's at some point in time, these two teams anticipate that they're going to have to face each other. I mean, Dallas,
you'd rather let the other guy face Colorado and get bloodied up.
No question about it. But I also don't buy totally into the argument that let's, for example, let Dallas and Colorado beat each other up, and that's immediately going to have a huge impact on round two. I think.
Well, I mean, look, if you're the Jets and you face Minnesota, don't think that you're getting out of that one unscathed either.
Of course.
Or Calgary.
You're gonna feel bumps and bruises after every, but it's the war of attrition is what it is. So I think that eventually when those injuries or the bumps and the bruises they add up, I think they add up more in the third and the fourth round than they necessarily would in the second round.
And we saw that with the Jets in 2017-18, where that series with Nashville was like a war, right, Ez? And then what happened against Vegas? I mean, they just didn't have the same gumption.
After the Ryan Reeves tip happened, Dave.
That's many a year ago at this point in time. Anyways, that is the big news from Winnipeg Jets morning skate.
Nikolai Ehlers is fine, though. We should probably report that as well.
That's exactly where I was going to go. Nikolai Ehlers, who was off the ice the last 2 days as well, skated today, declared himself fit and ready to go. So no change to the forward group, which I'm not surprised about because that forward group has been very solid, especially since Morgan Barron has transitioned to
Although he smoked,
the middle.
he just give people some insight because, I mean, I'm assuming he's good to go, but Morgan Barron did
he lose an edge?
He lost an edge and he hit the boards pretty big. So he went and he took a breather. He did skate afterwards, so he looked like he was fine. But I mean, I guess it would be something to take note of, which is why we go and pay attention.
Well, if there's an extra forward on the ice for the game day warm up, right around 6:30, 6:40 tonight, then we'll have an idea as to who that might be for. Logically, unless of course Nikolai Ehlers. We don't know what kept him out of the lineup for the last 2 days, but he certainly declared himself fit and ready to go. Yeah. And that's what the Jets need, because you look at the forward group for the Dallas Stars. I mean, they have depth. I think you would take the Jets. Probably the Jets' fourth line over theirs. And the Adam Lowry line, when they're operating at their peak, are certainly a very good matchup against any of these Stars lines. But you look at that forward group for the Dallas Stars, and it is absolutely impressive, even without Tyler Seguin and even without Roope Hintz.
Yeah, absolutely. Up the middle when you have Roope Hintz, right? Hintz, Johnston, Matt Duchene. You've got Sam Steele on that fourth line. But this Stars team was stacked without the acquisition of Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
And obviously, Drew and I have gone back and forth on the Saturday morning show about the Granlund CC acquisition, but those guys have actually played really well for them. And I would say that, you're talking about, again, when you look at the Jets forward lines versus the Dallas Stars forward lines, two of the deepest groups in the league, right? All due respect to a team like the Washington Capitals, or some of the other elite teams, the Edmonton Oilers or Vegas. I would probably throw Vegas in there as well, guys. They're very deep up front. But it's incredible, guys, when you're averaging the most goals in the NHL without Tyler Seguin, and a lot of that has been without Miro Heiskanen because he's been out of the lineup for over a month. He's obviously your top offensive defenseman, right? So a very deep team, good on special teams. And that's why this game, again, I will overhype this game. Some people don't want to overhype this game. I will absolutely overhype this game because, there's a good chance these two teams, you're going to have to go through the other team most likely to get to the Stanley Cup final.
That's right. Exactly to your point there, Ezzy. And that's why I think the excitement is so high for tonight's game and the level of anticipation is where it's at. And that's why we're here at City Place broadcasting this special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. That's why so many of you are gathered around to hear our analysis, to hear the preview of this game between the Jets and the Dallas Stars. It'll be puck drop later on tonight. And of course, City Place was your home away from home in anticipation celebration before the game and after the game. All the great merchants here at City Place welcome you as you make your way through to the arena later on tonight.
Your
and
big
after
arch
the
is
game.
actually ready, Drew. They're signaling you to
Thank
pick
you.
up your big arch.
That's
so.
good. Yeah, they knew I was coming, so I pre-ordered that. But there's all sorts of great options available for you here at City Place, and we're so thrilled that they're welcoming us here. And of course, come playoff time, we look forward to being back here as well. So you can diarize that as your place to be before every Jets home playoff.
Dave
game
and I do
as
have
well.
diaries, by the way.
You do have diaries?
Yeah, we do. We
not
write
even
it-
not even
yeah.
pomp.
It's a lot of I hate Drew. I hate Drew. Drew's the
Dear
worst.
diary.
Dear diary, I
Yeah.
still hate Drew.
Yeah. Dear diary, that Drew guy is still annoying, things of that nature. That's okay. I appreciate that. The Jets and the Dallas Stars later on tonight. It is going to be a doozy. We'll take our one and only commercial break in this hour-long edition of this Legal Curve Hockey Show. When we come back, more on the Jets and the Stars. We delve deeper into the matchups. Who is your X factor for tonight's game from the Winnipeg Jets? Who needs to step up and be one of those difference makers for the Winnipeg Jets as they match up against the Dallas Stars? Drew Mindell, Ezra Ginsburg, Dave Manouk, producer Tim making us sound great like he does each and every time we go live. This is a special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We're live on location at City Place.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
Do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
We are back live at City Place, Jets Stars game preview, a special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Drew Mindell, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg
Sure,
with
shout
you.
out we got a couple of folks.
Yeah, there's a couple.
I don't know if they want to be named publicly, so I don't know. I don't want. Maybe people don't know that they're here, so we won't say their names publicly. But we will say there's a couple of folks who are wearing Illegal Curve gear,
That's
and
right.
you might recognize their names from the chat.
There you go. Exactly
And one of
right.
them might be from North Dakota, but I don't want to say. I don't want to say too much.
You don't want to give away too much. You don't want to give away their initials or anything like that. But
Yeah.
we do appreciate the love. We appreciate the support. Everybody joining us here live at City Place. Everybody joining us live on our YouTube channel. And of course, we remind you later on tonight after the game, back on the Illegal Curve YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms for the Illegal Curve post-game show, where we give our analysis and we do a deep dive into everything that happens tonight between the Jets and the Dallas Stars. And for those of you who are within earshot and are saying, oh, how do I get to that Illegal Curve YouTube channel? Simple answer is just Google Illegal Curve, and there's a QR code on this big poster behind me here at City Place. Just scan that QR code. That'll take you exactly where you need to go, so you can join us each and every time we go live after each and every Winnipeg Jets game, and then again Saturday mornings with the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. So very exciting day ahead. Here's the Jets head coach, Scott Arniel. Yesterday I mentioned the quote when he was asked about how much a win over the Dallas Stars would mean for tonight's game. The Jets head coach smirked and said, quote, "It's just 2 more points up on them. That's the math." And then he sort of went on and then admitted that, no, it's an important game. When you have teams behind you, you want to make sure you try to keep them there. And the Jets have done a very good job this year, keeping their closest opponents further back in the rearview mirror, and that's why sort of the mindset for tonight is similar. Again, keep Dallas at bay. Dallas have been playing great hockey. We talked about it, that the Stars are if the Stars have been the second best team since January 1st, the Jets have been the third best team, and literally they're 2 points separating each other. So basically they've been playing at the same rate of success since January the 1st, Ezzy.
Yeah, and earlier we were talking about how good of a 7-game series this would be, right?
Sure.
I really don't think there's any chance this series doesn't go minimum 6 games, if not 7 games, right?
Hard to believe it
Dave,
wouldn't.
because, let's say you give the Stars the advantage when it comes to defense, I think you could give the Jets the advantage when it comes to their forwards and their goaltending, right? So I definitely don't think that the Jets' edge in their forward group would be that significant either, right? Like, we're talking about it. Tyler Seguin has been out of the lineup. He was 3rd on the team in scoring. Obviously, Tyler Seguin is not the same Tyler Seguin he was maybe 6 or 7 years ago, but he's still a very impactful player. Sure. Rupe Hintz, obviously, is going to be out shorter term. Hasn't missed a game yet. This will be the first game that he's missed. He took a puck in the face. I'm not sure if we mentioned that earlier, but the point is this is going to be a very tight game, and when it comes down to even special teams, there's not a huge edge, even though you would look at the stats and you'd say, oh, the Jets have the top power play unit in the league. We mentioned it earlier, the last 2.5 months, the Stars actually have the best power play in the league. So there's so many different weapons. Obviously, Thomas Harley replaced Shea Theodore on defense. He's really turning into...
At the Four Nations Cup.
At the Four Nations, I should mention. He's really turning into a top 20, top 15 defenseman in the NHL.
But you go a little bit deeper on their defense, and again, it's what I would describe as a veteran defense that, not limited, but it's capped at its upside. A guy like Cody Ceci, been through many a battle in this league, talented defenseman, but he's got a limit to what he can usually do. Same thing with Matt Dumba. We know that Matt Dumba isn't the same Matt Dumba that he was, when he broke in with Minnesota and was a really exciting young defenseman. A little bit longer in the tooth now, a little bit more limited, but at the same time, Dave, you would say the same about some of the Jets players on their back end. And again, for those just joining us tonight or this afternoon, Neil Pionk out of the Jets lineup on a week-to-week basis. So the stalwart second pairing right side defenseman for the Winnipeg Jets, who's been really written in pen for most of this year, won't be in the Jets lineup for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that if you look at these pairs, you're right. It doesn't inspire. It's not it's not Vegas. Let's put it that way, right?
On
the back end.
Sure.
I would say that both groups have very good dynamic forwards, and the goaltending is elite. We'll see. The one thing I do wonder is Jake Ottinger still burning from that last... remember, Hellebuck's backup or whatever the chant was the last time the Dallas Stars were here in Winnipeg, or as someone noted, I wrote inadvertently when I was doing Dylan Sandberg's media availability, I wrote Winnipeg Jets pregame media verse, and I wrote Texas Stars, not Dallas Stars.
You're all about the AHL. Your mind is always focused on the AHL.
I'm actually not always. Well, last night I was a little bit, but I will say that it was just an inadvertent slip, Ezzy, but I just thought it was funny that someone noticed it in the 2 minutes before I caught it myself and changed it. But yeah, I think I do wonder how much that does play, that Jake Ottinger was burning after getting pulled. Remember, it's not like he got pulled mid-game.
Right.
So it wasn't like, okay, he came out for the second period, there had been a goalie change. He had to listen to the chants, Hellebuck's backup, whatever it was. I think it was Hellebuck's backup. And so that was just an interesting sort of dynamic, and I do wonder how much that these guys claim as I don't remember anything. We have short memories, and and sometimes I believe them. Sometimes I don't think they actually know who the opposing goaltender is. But like in this instance, I do wonder how much that is playing. And again, and as he made the point, and we heard it on Hellebuck's video yesterday, which again available on Illegal Curve, but he said, I want to win this game. I want to shutout. Like he's approaching it not because it's the Dallas Stars, but just that's the way he approaches every single game.
I just love the way I kind of feel like, if I was to talk to Connor Hellebuck today or tomorrow, I'm obviously not allowed within 100 feet of him, but if I was around Hellebuck, I don't go in the Jets room like Dave does. Like I would just go all Chris Farley, right? And I'd be like, you're
in the Beatles. That was awesome.
Yeah, like you're going to win the Hart Trophy and the Vezina Trophy this year, right? And Hellebuck would just be like,
who are you? Yeah. How did you get in here?
Yeah, no, but he's just so confident.
It was U.S. backup. That was what the chant was. Hellebuck's backup is a little wordy, a little bit of too much of a mouthful, but it was U.S. backup. I see Kenneth Gardner over there giving us the shout out. Thanks, Kenneth.
Straight from ND.
Yeah, exactly.
I still think Katy Perry was maybe the best chant ever at Canada Life Center for Corey Perry.
No, that wasn't. Silver medal to Ryan Miller.
Silver medal was the
best one.
Yeah.
By far, in my opinion.
But I'm sticking with Katy Perry.
Okay, well, you're wrong.
Well,
but that's fine.
He's entitled.
He's entitled.
It's called his opinion.
That's right. He's entitled to his opinion.
It was inappropriate, obviously, but it was still very funny.
I understand that. In any event, it's interesting to note that the Jets and the Stars really haven't faced each other in the last, 3 months? I think it was mid-December when they last faced each other. Yeah. So these are two teams that are, obviously played each other twice more. This tonight and then in Dallas in about three and a half weeks time.
Yeah. And we're at Boston Pizza for that game.
We will be at Boston Pizza on Taylor Avenue for that game as well. Exactly right. I think that's Thursday, April the 10th, if I recall correctly off the top of my head. But it's interesting that these two teams they've been sort of going about their parallel tracks. Yep. But without having those tracks having crossed each other at all.
With the exception of Mikko Rantanen, who the Jets have now faced 7 times this year.
It's true. I mean, they've been playing against Mikko Rantanen a whole bunch. But you're right. He's obviously a huge addition to the back end. And we know that Ceci and Backlund are there as well. But these two teams, they're just churning. They're churning. They're winning. They're winning. They're winning. I mean, you look at the winning percentage of these two teams over the last 2.5, 3 months. And they're incredible. They're machine-like.
Well, I mean, again, think about how frustrating it must be for a team that keeps winning game after game after game
and can't gain any ground,
and yet are not gaining anything in terms of the Jets. And then if the Jets falter, well, the Stars might falter. So there's really been there's been nothing that's allowed it. So look, this is consequential, but I do like, Drew, how you said it. It does seem like two trains on parallel tracks. Mm-hmm. Of course, those trains now are about to meet and hit on one track. And so we'll see which one gets derailed after tonight's game. But it is interesting how these two teams, I mean, when you look at it we were looking at it earlier, the top 5 teams in the NHL, and it was like, Winnipeg and Washington, and then Dallas. Yeah. And Minnesota was at that point.
It's 2018 all over again with the Jets and the Predators being 1-2 in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just really what it boils down to. If you're Dallas, I mean, look, you've been sitting there at, you've been playing a .732 points percentage since January 1st. You would think you'd be able to gain some ground, more than just some ground in that time period. They've gained 2 points, and that's only because they've played an extra game than the Jets. So if the Jets, had played the same amount of games, both teams could say they've been playing at a .732 points percentage over the last, 8.5 weeks, 10 weeks. It's incredible to really wrap your brain around how good these two teams have been, never having met each other since mid-December.
And Drew, specifically, how consistent the Jets have been, right? Like, we know the Jets have not had very many extended losing streaks, right? We know their winning streaks of 8, 9, 11 games.
Right.
Never been done before in NHL history, right? And that's why I think, when you look at this game, for Dallas, you're coming into Winnipeg, you're well-rested, you know how important this game is, and you know that this is your time to pick up those points. Mm-hmm. Like, again, the importance of this game in terms of the standings cannot be overstated. It really can't. I've used the word overstated at least 20 times. I know Tim's getting a little bit annoyed with me, just kidding. But, it really is that type of game. At this point in the season, these teams are on a collision course to meet in the playoffs. Obviously, things can happen, and one of these teams could get knocked out in the first round, Dave.
I would not take Colorado.
I would not. Look, our friends at Play Now, I am not betting against either of these teams in the first round, put it that way.
The depth of Dallas seems to be, and I think that they've made changes. They haven't made the full-scale changes that Colorado had. And Craig Button, our good friend who was on the show with us last Saturday and who's in the arena, he's going to be at the game tonight. He mentioned to us last week when he was on the show. He's saying that he thought Colorado made too many changes to necessarily be a smooth operate, as good as the Jets and the Stars have been this year. Too many changes might take more than just the 6 weeks or the 8 weeks to get acclimatized with one another. And obviously, time will tell on that factor. But that's another element, a way of showing how big tonight's game is here. Is that our buddy Craig's flying in to do his TSN work live and in the building and everything else as part of the tonight's broadcast. So again, the excitement level is real. It's anticipated. You can feel the buzz in the air as we sit here broadcasting live from City Place. So you can feel that excitement, Dave. Sorry, you chortled there for a second.
Well, no, because
it was definitely, was that a chortle or a guffaw, Ezzy?
More of a guffaw.
I think it was more of a chortle.
Okay, I thought it was more chortle than anything.
Well, I only because I was thinking to myself about the irony of when tomorrow whichever team loses, I'm like, well, it's just game 67.
Well, that's always how it works.
Well, that's what happened after the Canada-USA Four Nations game, right?
We talked. The game didn't matter anymore than the Americans.
It was the most consequential game in the history of hockey, and then suddenly the team that lost, it was it's just really a lead up. The Olympics is what matters.
It's a made up tournament. It's not a big deal.
So I just it made me think of that sort of, Drew, is that you just to see which team plays it off as like it's not really that big a deal. But look, again, I think it's important. I think especially if you're the Winnipeg Jets, to be able to have that 10-point gap, even though they have 2 games in hand, to have a 10-point advantage over the Dallas Stars versus 6 is significant. I still think, as Drew, you put out the numbers, it's still going to be a challenge for Dallas, or even if they are able to get a clean 2 points.
The Jets are still this 75%, odds are in their favor that they're going to end up winning the Central still.
It just moves to so much more significant that, and again, like I said, it just puts you on a good, you're heading out on the road to Seattle and Vancouver, I think.
Seattle, Vancouver, Edmonton.
Edmonton, right. So they'll have some games on the out west. Not, of course.
It's not the hardest schedule coming up, right?
And they have one back-to-back left this season,
and that's not till later in April.
It's I can pull it up here, and if you give me a second, it's April. I think it's a game in Chicago, and then it's a game back home the next day. I'll pull it up here real quick. But there's one back-to-back left for the Winnipeg Jets. It's April 12th in Chicago, and then April 13th back home against the Edmonton Oilers. Which, speaking of which, this is going to come up on our social media. So be sure to be following us on our Facebook page and on our Instagram page. This is coming up this afternoon, right, Dave?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. We are giving away, in conjunction with our friends at Play Now, we're giving away 4 tickets to that Jets-Oilers game on Sunday, April the 13th. So that's going to go live on our social media, Facebook page and our Instagram page this afternoon at 2 p.m. Follow @IllegalCurve, and you can win.
You have to follow.
You have to follow. You have
and
to
subscribe to this channel, just because you
That's right.
You don't really have to, but you kind of have to.
You have to follow
us. And you have
us.
to come here right now and answer a skill testing question.
No, that you do not have to do. But you have to follow us @IllegalCurve on Facebook and on Instagram, and you have to follow Play Now on Facebook as well, and you will be entered into a draw to win 4 tickets to the Jets and the Oilers coming up Sunday, April the 13th. What I was going to ask you, though, we've been talking about that. I mentioned this, coming back from the break. Your X factor in tonight's game. We've gone through the roster.
Ezra Ginsburg.
We've gone through. Ezra's your X factor.
No, I'm your Ez factor.
The Ez factor. We've gone up and down the lineup. We've talked about the injuries. We've talked about who's going to be in the lineup. We talked about who's going to be absent from the lineup for both teams. I'll start with you. The X factor tonight from the Winnipeg Jets perspective. Which player are you sort of, keeping a focus on? A lot of the hype this week has been about Cole Perfetti and him becoming sort of taking that next step in his development. Is it him? Is it somebody on the back end? Is it an Adam Lowry? Where are you sort of directing your attention towards?
Why don't you tell me what movie you'd like to see?
Thank you for calling Movie Phone.
No, I mean, actually, my X factor is Luke Shen, and the reason why is because he's being moved up. I mean, remember, we thought that Luke Shen was going to be an addition to be the third pairing defenseman, a guy with stabilizing force, a guy who's got 2 Stanley Cup rings, a guy who is, necessary to bring a kind of that culture that this Jets team doesn't have. They don't have that winning pedigree. They've
Stanley Cup pedigree.
That's what I'm talking about. I was going to say they've won in the regular season. Yeah. We know that.
Scooch a bit closer to Ez. You're getting cut off on the camera.
Okay, well, fine. I was like, I'm always like being close to Ez. But the truth is that to me, you're now asking him to take that elevated role. And it's interesting because Scott O'Neill alluded to the fact that he was going to be taking shifts with guys like Josh Morrissey, with guys like Dylan Sandberg, especially because of the way the Jets fluctuate, with Neil Pionk having power play time. So then the pairs aren't always going to be structure. There is going to be some fluidness to them, if you will. So
Fluidity was the word you're looking for.
I was looking for that word, but I saw you trying to supply it to me, and I was like, all right, Drew, give it to me.
Mind meld, fluidity.
So to me, Luke Shen is the guy I'm watching because I want to see how he handles this jump up. I mean, look, like I said, whether it was by choice or by necessity, they threw Luke Shen in that at the last minute of the game, to protect that lead against the New York Rangers. I don't think that was by mistake.
Yeah.
I think that was by choice. So to me, he's the guy I'm looking for. How does he handle that jump up in minutes? And Scott Arniel said today after the media availability, after the morning skate, that one of the things he said was that there will be guys in different pairings. So Colin Miller may be beside Dylan Sandberg at points. You may see some changes there, but ultimately he's my guy I'm watching to see how he can handle kind of that elevated role after just, in his second game here with the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part you want to see from Luke Shen, of course, is the impenetrability, which might not be a word, but I like it anyways, where he...
It is now.
It is now, where the front of the net is that no-go zone against him. That's what the Jets have wanted. That's why they brought him in. That's what, one of the big things he brings to the table. We'll see if he's able to execute to the level that the Jets want, playing in that elevated role next to Dylan Sandberg. Dylan Sandberg, of course, has been fantastic for the Winnipeg Jets.
He's a rock.
He really is. And, we'll give credit to Connor Harapchuk, who does great work with us here at Illegal Curve and does his great, day after recaps on illegalcurve.com. He's been banging that drum a lot. Dom Lucian of The Athletic has also been banging the drum. I mean, the Jets' record this season...
I'm pretty sure Dave and I were banging that drum 2 years ago,
yeah,
but that's
I know,
okay.
But I don't like giving you guys credit.
Sandberg fan club, president's here.
I know, but if I give you guys credit, you start demanding more things and, a greater share of our revenue of $0.00. So that is funny. That's bad all around for everybody.
I was listening to that. I'm thinking to myself, it's interesting. I'm pretty sure.
I don't want to give you guys credit. You guys know, we've been doing this for long enough to know that you guys don't need to get credit from me. The fans give you the credit. I got to keep you humble while they elevate your reputation.
I agree.
Okay, give me credit though I'm going to give you my X factor now.
Yes, please do.
And it's a little bit obscure because it's not necessary. I mean, there's a lot of guys.
Marty Johnson, the video coach.
Yeah, Matt Prefontaine is my X
factor. The assistant coach. I meant Matt Prefontaine.
I'm going with El Nino. I'm going with Nino Niederreiter, who has not scored a goal in 11 games. Sure. And it's not for lack of chances, and he obviously has a big impact on that third line. But I'm going with Nino because, as you know, in games like this, it's going to come down to possibly a power play goal here, a turnover here. Obviously, the Lowry, Niederreiter, Appleton line, guys, all year long has been an impactful line for the Jets. But I'm going... because we're going with an X factor here. We're not necessarily going with one of the established stars like Scheifele, Morrissey, Connor. The Jets have no shortage of stars, but I'm going with Nino to break out of his goal-scoring slump tonight. So you can give me credit when Nino scores tonight against Dallas.
Should he give you credit, or should Drew give you credit? Should Drew give you credit, or El Nino give you credit?
I think he means me to give him the credit on the post-game show. Yes. I don't think that I don't think Nino Niederreiter is looking for credit from Ezzy at any point in time. Actually, it's a good rule of thumb is to not look for credit from Ezzy because that credit is going to get rejected very quickly.
I didn't make it a Ginsburg guarantee.
And everyone's thankful for that here at City Place. All those listening in know that the Ginsburg guarantee is usually a guarantee of the opposite happening.
It's worth as much as this Diet Coke can here on the table.
An empty Diet Coke can. It doesn't even have any value. Maybe for the scrap metal. Maybe the scrap metal has got a little bit of value associated with it. Aluminum. I'm not sure how the tariffs.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the price of aluminum is going these days with the U.S. trade war, but
it's okay. We'll leave that for a different show entirely than our show. But it's just again part of the elements of tonight's game is that you need those guys who are maybe not your superstars, not your unsung, not the guys you rely on game in, game out to step up. We see it all the time, Dave, where those guys come up and they have an impact where you don't necessarily expect them to immediately do it. I mean, Morgan Barron, to me, is a guy who's really sort of beginning to make that impact for the Winnipeg Jets. You mentioned he went into the boards hard this morning at the morning skate, but the way he's been able to sort of play that fourth line, to me, that fourth line for the Winnipeg Jets should be, getting with last change, you should be able to get the matchups that you want. I look at that fourth line for the Jets as being an advantageous position for them in that they can be deployed in basically any role that Scott Arniel needs them to go out with tonight. That, the Adam Lowry line is the prototypical shutdown line for the Winnipeg Jets as of late. But if need be, I also have faith in that line of Barron, of Iafallo, to step up and do what they need to do for from the Winnipeg Jets.
Don't forget about
perspective.
Brandon Tanev.
Brandon Tanev, of course, as well. Sorry, that was the other name that was it was on the tip of my tongue there. I look to them that the Jets can almost be a little bit matchup proof at times, where they can deploy the Lowry line or they can deploy the Barron line and have good results in tonight's game.
Again, it's one of the biggest things that this Jet team has shown game in, game out as he is depth, right? And that's one of those advantages. Like, look, Morgan Barron is moved to center and he's been really good. Yeah. And we've been asking and wanting to see more from Morgan Barron. I'm sure Morgan Barron wants to see more from himself and more.
And he's actually been asking to see more from us.
Yes, he
like
has.
Morgan Barron's like, I want more Illegal Curve broadcasts. That's what he's been asking for.
Well, that's why we're here live at City Place. Yes. It works well. He's very happy in that case.
But even yesterday at practice, like after skate had kind of finished, he and Davis Payne were working on faceoffs, and I just think that's one of those things that if you ask, like that is a key to this team, is that guys are just. Every day you see them trying to do things that are improving themselves. And so as a whole, as a collective, this team has continued to show that their depth is winning out. And so they aren't reliant on we saw the numbers on the top line for the last little bit. It's been a little bit, from a statistics perspective, not the best.
Yeah.
And so I'm just saying that, but because of that, you also have the depth when it comes to who? The Perfetti line, right? The Nemesnikov line, the Ehlers line. Those guys have stepped up. The Lowry line. So I'm just saying that you're getting contributions from everyone, and so you're not reliant. This Jets team, to the point that you're making, Drew, come back to it. It's just you have a fourth line now that you feel good about, and you also control the matchups, which is the key, I think, in tonight's game.
Yeah, and I just wanted to throw in one thing, Drew, because I think you make a good point, obviously, with last change, right? Like a guy, another X factor that I would say for the Dallas Stars would be Jamie Benn, right? Jamie Benn has been a pest against the Winnipeg Jets for many years, like going on 10 plus years right now, Dave. Yeah. And he's on that top line now with Wyatt Johnston and Mikko Rantanen. It was obviously Rupe Hintz who was centering the top line, but now Wyatt Johnston has elevated. So you would think that Scott Arniel likes the Lowry line matched up against Dallas's top line, and then you're probably going to see the Scheifele line. Ideally, you would like them matched up against the third line, the Maverick, Bork, Dadonov, Marchment line, but the Duchesne, Robertson, Granlund line is a very good line as well. And and then you see what you can do with the Nemesnikov line. Can you get that line up? Obviously, that's where the matchups. I'm fascinated by what you're going to see with the matchups tonight, because the margin of error is so little, and the difference between these two teams is so little. Obviously, that's not to say that the Jets can't pop in 5 or 6 goals tonight, Dave, and win by 2 or 3 goals. But I'm expecting like a grinder tonight.
There's no reason to expect this game to be anything other than a tight-checking, low-scoring affair based on.
5-4 final score.
Well, I shouldn't say low-scoring, but a well-played game.
Yeah.
This should be a high level of hockey. We've seen some games over the last number of weeks
that have been slugs, for sure.
That have been, or just one-sided. The games against Philly, the games against New Jersey last week, or where the Jets just went in there and they just demonstrated that they're leaps and bounds better than those two teams were the Thursday, Friday before the trade deadline. This should be a game of two equals almost. Not to say that it's going to necessarily reflect that on the scoreboard when it's all said and done, but in the anticipation to this game, these are two teams that are basically equal to one another. You look at the numbers, we've touched on it throughout the course of the last 55 or so minutes, the comparatives, the parallel tracks, as I use that expression again, between these two teams are obvious, they're significant, and they're, I think, going to display themselves in the course of tonight's contest.
Absolutely, and I think, not having some star players out there, namely Hintz and namely Heiskanen, not include Tyler Seguin in there as well.
Pionk for the Jets.
Pionk, but more so there's a little less speed and skill out there for Dallas. So I think that's more of an opportunity for the Jets maybe to get in and pressure the Stars early on in this game, hopefully get an early goal, right? And another thing, guys, that we haven't talked about a lot is, Scheifele, Connor, Velarde, they've dipped a little bit.
Well, that's what Dave just said.
At 5-on-5, but it's not just for this game. It's something that I think is kind of one of those like smaller narratives. Sorry, Dave, you did just mention that, but to me, that's something that I'm watching. That line hopefully can set a tone tonight, like they've done so many times this year. But that's something that I think is unmistakable. That this line, has not necessarily been firing on all cylinders, so to speak.
So let me just sort of delve a little bit deeper into that for those who are listening here at City Place and those who are listening through our social media platforms. their goals for, goals against has been very good at 5-on-5. It's been the underlying numbers that have been struggling a little bit, akin to how they were last year, more so, where the underlying numbers weren't great. They were maybe giving up a little too much. They were getting hemmed into their own zone a little bit more, but they were producing offensively, which of course is really all that matters. Push comes to shove. But the philosophy is, or the theory is, that if you're getting hemmed into your own zone, eventually that's going to come back and be a negative, and it's going to come back and bite you. For the large part of this season, Dave, that top line for the Jets has been excelling at 5-on-5 in terms of goals for, goals against, and chances for, chances against.
Yeah.
But it's only in the last, let's say, month or so, 3 weeks, that you're seeing a little bit of that sub 50% success rate when it comes to possession and when it comes to things of that nature.
Yeah, and again, this is, we try not to get too alarmist, if you will, and you say, okay, well, there's been a dip, so we'll see, because again, they've shown that they can play elite, and so that I think is what the coaching staff is prepared to ride out, and they still win.
Right.
And you're still winning when you have a goalie like Connor Hellebuck, who, I mean, we haven't gone over the exact numbers he's put up over the last 6 weeks, but I mean, I know we talked about it yesterday when we were speaking with him, and the numbers are insane right now, his numbers. So he's putting up, like, he is about to pass. Like he's at 38 wins. He's already I don't remember where that ranks from a season perspective.
What's his career high? 44.
44. So he's got the record.
He'll get that.
He's got the record of 44, and he's only 10 away from the record held by your boy Marty Brodeur and Braden Holtby. Who actually, Braden Holtby's record, though, he had 48 wins in 65 games for the Capitals 1 year. Like, that's ridiculous. But
those Capitals teams were stacked.
They were.
So here's the numbers for Connor Hellebuck. This is the NHL's been sort of pumping this.
Yeah, that's a nice little graphic there.
Thank you. It's not mine. It was produced by the Jets in the NHL. Connor Hellebuck, 38 wins. That leads the league.
Yeah, of course.
Save percentage of .927. That leads the league. Goals against average, sub 2 of 199. Don't need to tell you that leads the league. Shutouts 6, that leads the NHL as well. Since there's been only 4 goalies that have led in all those categories at season's end, and none since 1985-86.
Hold on, let me guess. Grant Fuhr?
No, Bob Freeze.
Oh.
Okay, I didn't. You weren't going to get that, but I mean the names that are on that list: Bernie Perrant, Ken Dryden, Jacques Plante. I mean these are all best of the best, and that's where Connor Hellebuck has been. And not that we take it for granted, or not that the audience takes it for granted, but it is just he's doing it in such a routine fashion. It seems that you forget about the ace in the hole that is Connor Hellebuck, and when he's on his game, just how impenetrable he's been.
And I gotta say though, I thought that was one of the most interesting things about his commentary yesterday, as he was the fact that he talked about how predictable, how consistent the team plays in front of him. So when he was when Kelly was giving him the number, Kelly Moore was giving those kind of numbers and reciting them and saying, listen, like you're doing this. He goes, well, you know what? They're making it very easy in front of me. And look, don't get me wrong, most teammates are always, if you talk to a hockey guy, 99% of them want to talk about somebody else, not themselves. Yes. And so Hellebuck, but I just thought the way he spoke, and if you didn't hear it, it's worth listening to. I think I put it out on our Instagram as well, so go to the Illegal Curve Instagram, you can watch that one. But I just thought his comment was really revealing, just talking about the predictability of where the shots are coming from. So he knows. It's not a surprise. He's not caught off guard. They're funneling guys saying, okay, you can shoot from here. He's talked about how they've limited the high danger chances against him this year. So yes, he's been otherworldly. Yes, he is a phenomenal goaltender, but I think the team's commitment to defense this year, more than ever before, I would say, is that they're making the game predictable for one of the best. And when you do that, it makes it even easier for them. So I think that's...
It's almost like last game too, right, guys? Like the Rangers score 1 goal, and it's like, okay, they got their 1 goal.
But the 1 goal came on almost on a bit of a broken play, on a fluke, where it wasn't
on the power
predictable.
Play.
On the power play, where I think it was JT Miller was sitting there, and the puck just sort of, he heeled the puck. He went to shoot it.
Right.
He flubbed it. It went fortuitously onto the stick of, I think it was it Zibanejad? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay, Zibanejad. So Zibanejad ends up in a prime scoring opportunity almost by a mistake. So the predictability that you're speaking about becomes unpredictable in that one instance. And of course, scoring on the power play, again, he didn't give up a goal at 5-on-5.
That's right.
I mean, newsflash, the majority of the game is played at 5-on-5.
Right, and it's almost at the point, guys, where it's not a question of, is Connor Hellebuck in the Hart Trophy conversation? At least for me, it's not.
Does he win it?
Is he the favorite?
Yeah.
right? Like, obviously, Nathan McKinnon's having a great year. Leon Draisaitl's having a... No, for me, I'm not saying for other people, but for me, at least, obviously, I don't have a vote. But to me, he is the favorite for the Hart Trophy
I got a vote right here.
Yeah. I agree with you, though, Ezzy. If again, I've been saying this...
How do I get one of those cards, Dave?
Yeah.
Pay your dues.
Yeah. I've been saying this for a while now, though, that if you're a voter for the Hart Trophy, and you're not voting Connor Hellebuck, you're going out of your way to find reasons not to, because you're
100%.
Because you're of the philosophy that goalies shouldn't win the Hart Trophy.
Which is the dumbest thing. Why?
Right.
Goalies have won it before.
Carey
Price won it 10 years ago, right?
Then make them ineligible to win it.
Well, the only thing I would say is that I just remember, guys. Just I'm not trying to malign anyone, but just think.
Why are you maligning us?
I would malign you two, but I'm not talking. Well, not Ezzy, but I would malign you, Drew. Not Timmy either.
Never liked the word malign.
But I will say though that this is, if you think about,
is it the silent G that throws you off?
I just don't. It's not a word I enjoy.
All right. Segue aside, I was going to say that to me, you got to remember how many guys have come in from outside this market and asked Scott Arniel. Remember, and he gets prickly because they say, "Oh, well, are you doing this? Hey, there's Craig Button. Why don't we get Craig on right now?"
Hey, Craig, how are you?
We're good.
We're
doing good.
We're doing a special edition of the show. It's such a big game tonight. We were talking about you saying, it's a big game when Craig's coming to town for it. There you go.
Craig's doing what we should be doing. We should be exercising before the game, as opposed to going to McDonald's. But
yeah, here, there you go. You can jump on. You're not on camera. You're just on mic.
I should never be on camera.
You excited for tonight's game, though, Craig?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those games that when you start to think about playoffs and the intensity that the playoffs brings, that's what this game will have. This game will be, I watched the Washington-LA game last night. That was a nasty, hard, heavy game. It was playoff intensity. Minnesota and the Rangers played a heavy, hard game. That's what tonight's going to be like. It's going to be a hard, and as it should be. I mean, these teams, first place in this division it is worth everything, every bit of its weight in gold.
That's right.
Let Colorado and Dallas take chunks out of each other in the first round. That's what you want to do. So it's an exciting time. And the building will be rocking. And I wonder how much sleep the players will get this afternoon. They're jacked too. You don't get these types of games on a March 14th. So
that's right.
It's awesome.
The naps won't come easy to them, but you'll be part of the TSN broadcast tonight. Yep. So we'll look forward to seeing you with that. And we appreciate, even though you're just popping by, but we always appreciate
Craig,
you jumping on.
You've really inspired me. I'm gonna get some workout in before the game because you're looking fantastic, and I just feel like I need to get increase the energy, even though I'm not playing in the game, obviously.
Craig, you're energized though,
Craig,
Ezra.
We don't lie on the show. Ezzy's going right to McDonald's. That's where he's going.
No, that's what I'm saying. Craig has inspired me to not go to McDonald's and to do some push-ups.
Yeah, or just go for a walk. Go for a walk around the block.
It's beautiful out here.
It is. It's unbelievable. I came in last night. I couldn't believe it. Where's all the snow gone?
It's gone.
Well, I'm a skier, and there's no snow in Alberta either. So,
Craig, just quickly, what do you think of Luke Schen's addition? I mean, he's going to now with Neil Pionk out week to week. Luke Schen's going to have to jump up. He's going to play with Dylan Sandberg. What kind of influence do you think he's going to have on this team?
It's so amazing that when you think about what Luke brings to a team, and obviously Neil's had an unbelievable season this year, and get him healthy for the playoffs. But Luke can step into that spot and play. Like that's the beauty of Luke Schenn, and there's many beautiful things about Luke Schenn, the player. I mean, he's hard to play against. He can kill. One of the things I felt was really important is it takes some of the pressure off of Dylan DeMello and Neil Pionk, and penalty killing. He's hard. He's heavy. You think about playoffs. I mean, Luke embodies what playoff hockey is all about. He's smart. I loved what he said after the game Tuesday against the Rangers too. He said, "I thrive with structure." And this team plays with structure. So I think that Luke fits into a system and a system of team play that'll be really good for him. He'll be really good for the team. And obviously, when you have the experience of getting to the finish line, it's going to help you. And I mean, just a calming influence. I may have told you this story before on a show, but we traded for Mike Keane and Brian Skrudland in 1998. Did I tell you the story about with Madonna?
We're always willing to hear
it again. The audience wants to hear it again.
Okay, well, I mean, we were playing in San Jose. I believe we were up 2-1. It was midway through. It was a tie game, and San Jose was a hard team. And Mike was anxious on the bench, Madonna. And he said, Mike Keane just reached over and put his hand on his arm. He said, just relax. Just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. You don't have to do more. don't do less, but just keep doing. And I think that players that have had that experience of going through, good players, top players, they always want to do more. When things aren't going your way, you want to do more. You have that fire and that inclination, and that's not always the answer. Sometimes it's just about keep playing at that level, and then when your opportunity comes, take advantage. I think Connor McDavid in the Four Nations face-off was a perfect example of that. He realized, hey, you know what, there's not as much there. I better not try to force things and create an opportunity the other way. And when the opportunity came, he was ready to bury it. So when you have those types of, when you have players that have been through the experience, and Luke's been through it a few times, it's going to be beneficial. And obviously he has a voice and he has respect, but that voice when things are getting, and like when things are going well, nobody needs encouragement. But when things are a little bit topsy-turvy and Luke can speak, trust me, you'll hear a pin drop in the room because everybody will be shutting up and using both ears and mouth shut all the way through. So I think it's and Brandon Taneff's a really good addition too. A catalyst type player.
There's no analysis better than what Craig Button can give us here on this program.
Well, I think this goes down as the best ever illegal curve pop-in. Yeah, I think that goes without saying, Craig.
Yeah, this is literally a pop-up.
Yeah, right? It's just a cameo appearance. You know?
I was down the way there and I said, well, oh, look at this. Isn't this interesting?
We're everywhere.
It's great. It's always, I tell you guys this all the time. I love being part of you. When you ask me to come on, I always enjoy it.
Well, we tried to get Paul Maurice last time he was wandering through when the Panthers were here. He passed us, so we appreciate you picking up the mic.
Paul passed you?
He did.
Yeah, he turned down a microphone. Can you believe that?
I can't believe that Paul would do that. Paul is so, he's so generous with his time and his thing. And you guys, I mean, we have to have a talk with Paul about that.
Well, maybe come mid-June, a potential Stanley Cup preview between the Jets and the Panthers. We can bring that up at that point in time.
Peter DeBoer, the coach of the Dallas Stars, is one of Paul's dearest friends.
Yeah,
so, you know, you have him in town. But like, you know, for the Jets, you know, don't let Peter leave the game tonight with a smile on his face. Make sure he leaves a little bit disappointed.
We'll watch you tonight on the TSN broadcast. Yes. Craig, always great to see you in person. Normally it's through the TV, the magic of the computer screen.
Craig's usually in Calgary.
Yeah, usually in Calgary or Toronto where you're joining us. So it's much better to have you here in person.
I'll be back here on the 28th and 30th. I think they play the Devils and the Canucks on a Friday night and a Sunday afternoon.
That's right.
I'm back there that weekend too. So
okay, awesome. Well, in that case, you mark it in for the Saturday morning show. We'll have you on there as well.
You count on it.
Yeah,
okay. Thanks, Craig.
Thanks. Have a great day. Enjoy the game.
Yes, thank you.
And Ezra, get your energy up because the energy will be good.
There, Craig Button doing a walk-on pop-in here on this special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show live.
That was great.
At City Place in the
How
food
good was
court.
that? That was the best.
The only thing that's better than that is our buddy Ken just dropped off some Lamar donair and burgers for us to have for lunch. So we got some lunch set it up. We got Craig Button. We got it all going on here. It's been a great afternoon as usual live here at City Place. We're so thrilled that so many of you were able to join us and so many of you are tuning in wherever you may be joining us from. A reminder, after tonight's game, the Illegal Curve post-game show back on our YouTube channel, so we're looking forward to that. If you want to join us tonight, just Google Illegal Curve plus YouTube. You'll find us there, or scan the QR code that's on this big poster behind me.
We're high-tech at IC.
That's right. We have QR codes now. That's pretty big. That's a pretty big deal for us.
No big deal.
So scan that QR code. Be sure to join us tonight. Join us again tomorrow morning. And, of course, we'll be back here at City Place for the home playoff game. So you can be sure to mark that down and join us here for that. There's been a ton of fun this afternoon, a special live on location edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, getting you set for the Jets and the Dallas Stars. Thanks to all of you for joining us at home. Thanks for all of you joining us live here at City Place as well. For producer Tim, he's doing a great job making us sound so good and look so good. For Dave Manouk, for Ezra Ginsburg, who's off to do some push-ups and some sit-ups, I'm your host, Drew Mindell.
Well, we got to give a shout-out to AP before we
wrap up.
There you
go,
Come
exactly.
On.
There's
AP.
Our good friend, Adam Pollock, the brother of the founder of Illegal Curve, joining us here on Illegal Curve very briefly. There he goes. It's a
remarkable lawyer right there.
I know, exactly. You know, that's billable hours. Somehow we're getting charged for that. I think that was a file opening fee is what that would just
If you want the best lawyer in town, this guy right here, Adam Pollock.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. This has been a special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We'll see you later on tonight, right around 9:45 for the Illegal Curve post-game show. This has been us live at City Place.
Woo!
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.